Welcome back to the Rebel's Edge, folks. And as always, the 10X, because everything we bring you is 10X in terms of how you're going to be trading, in terms of the money you could potentially make. And we've got a whole bunch of great stuff to bring to you right now on the Rebel's Edge. Bang!
We are ready and rolling. Look at where Jon is today, boy howdy. Where is that, Jon? The CBOE.
CBOE Global Markets, Pete.
That's right.
And they are active today, as you might imagine, because the NASDAQ is taking a little bit of a dive after hitting record highs. NASDAQ, Dow Jones, and Russell, everything virtually moving to the upside fast, Pete. It's been a great day. And by the way, we want to remind you guys that tonight, at 7 p.m., we've got Pete on with Grant Cardone on a webinar. So make sure you follow the link if you'd like to join, because that will be an exceptional event. They're going to be talking about how do you profit from real estate without owning any real estate, among other things. Instant cash flow. That's what we're talking about, Pete. And you and Grant are going to crush it on this live webinar. Over 16,000 people have already registered. That's 10X for sure, folks. 10X with the one and only Grant Cardone and the one and only Pete Najarian. Even though they think that he's my twin. He is not.
Thankfully, for a lot of people, there's only one Pete Najarian.
Well, Pete, let me dive into this. We always start off the show, folks, with the macro minute. And the macro minute today, I'm going to say, Pete, when you take a look at this chart, folks, this is the inflation chart. This is published by CNBC. So these are their numbers. Pete and Jon didn't make this stuff up. But some headlines are saying, Pete, inflation was the CPI, Consumer Price Index, was down 0.1. And yet, Pete, it's up over 3% year over year. So does that mean that the inflation is down? No, it does not. It means inflation is up 3%. You can slice that however you want, folks, but that's the simple truth. And over 3% year over year, June over June, it's costing us more for a little bit of everything, Pete.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, Jon, but it's all in the interpretation, right? I mean, that's what it comes down to. And I'll just piggyback on what you were just talking about. We had 2 days of Powell. Now we get this number, the CPI number. Was it cooling? That's what some folks are saying. And to your point, it's still up there, year over year. But you take a look at what's going on right now. And the first thing I look at, as soon as they're all done with all of this, and every time we get a data point, I just go to the CME. I go check out the tool. And that did move. And here we are now. 88% chance of a cut in September. So no matter how you slice it, I'm just going off of what that's showing me. That's not me making up a number out of my head. That's what the CME tool is showing us right now. So the chances for a cut just got a lot greater. 72%. Now they're about 88%. It's not 100%, but it's getting close.
Yeah, it is, Pete. And why? Well, how do they track this? By actual trades in all the various instruments, from the 2-year to the 5-year to the 10-year to the 20 to all of that, folks. So those are real dollars on the line when their CME tool is saying what it is. And again, thanks to our friends here at CBOE Global Markets for letting us broadcast from here. It's fabulous to be here. Very active pit behind us, Pete. And one of the things that's active is gold. So fantastic futures, Yukon Cornelius, Pete, and any of those people who really follow gold, they would, I guess our friends over at Wealthion too, that follow gold, well, they would tell you that a 1.5% move to a new all-time high. We are that close, Pete, to a new all-time high for the precious metal. Apparently all that glitters is gold, and if interest rates are going down, that means the value of gold usually goes the opposite direction.
Well, and to your point, yesterday we were talking about gold and we talked about silver. And Yukon Cornelius, I don't know if he really gave a crap about silver or not, but I do. And I'll tell you, John, it is presently at the highest levels. It hit $32 today. It's at the highest levels it's been since November of 2011. So long wait, but a big jump, and we were seeing silver move. But what I really liked, what I was seeing moving, was this 10-year. The 10-year at a 417 is down 2.5%. So something to keep an eye on. We talk about it all the time. Where are the treasuries? The 10-year being probably the one that most people look at the most frequently. That is coming down pretty significantly. It wasn't too long ago that it was trading 448. So the fact that it is now at 417, it's dropped pretty significantly so far, and maybe there's a little bit more room below still.
Yeah, well, again, the Fed's target for inflation is 2%, folks. And that's an up 2% number. It's not down, it's up. But when we're still running at 3, they're not in the home stretch yet. They might be very close to that, but like Pete says, if they keep getting numbers like they got today, it's more likely that that number goes to closer to 100 by the middle of August, I think, Pete. All right, let's talk about Soundhound AI, because shares are trading higher. And why? Well, because they threw the AI at the end of their name.
Never hurts.
No, that doesn't hurt. And ChatGPT integrated voice is now available, Pete, live in production for Peugeot, for Opel, for Vauxhall. These are all vehicles in Europe. It's coming here too. And the 11 European markets, including Austria, France, Germany, and all that, UK, that's going to be big news, Pete. And that's really good for Soundhound. And you know what? Some people probably made some nice money on this move.
Yeah, I would say that they did. As a matter of fact, John, how about let's see, you got to go all the way back to yesterday when somebody in Soundhound on the UOA, that's unusual option activity, 17,000 of the August 5 calls were bought for, call it 40 cents. Today they hit $1.30. That's not such a bad return in a pretty short period of time, John. So Soundhound, definitely the UOA, and they had multiple hits, by the way. That's a 3X. They had multiple hits out of the gate as well. So with a 21% short, you can understand that move. It had a nice big spike to the upside. They've got a solid balance sheet, but, they still got a ways to go. This is a really nice move, and those options really sniffed it out.
Yep, certainly did, Pete. And that's what we do every day, folks. Do we have a hit like that makes you triple your money in one day? No, not every day. But we have those very, very frequently. And you can go to marketrebellion.com to check it out. Just go to our website, marketrebellion.com. All right, let's talk, Pete, about Joby, Joby. Now, you and I have talked about these before because these are like those vertical lift aircraft, meaning that it doesn't need a runway. It can go straight up, because basically that's what a lot of people are demanding for getting around traffic and so forth. Dubai has bought into this in a big way, and that's why the stock is rocking. But 13% rally today. Well, they're going to be doing emissions-free regional journeys with something that can go up to 523 miles, they say, Pete. Hydrogen electric flight. So again, not just lithium-ion batteries, which are great, but it takes a lot to make a lithium battery. Instead, hydrogen-powered. Big news, and that's why this stock is moving to the upside, just like their vertical lift pieces of equipment.
They're having a nice move, John, but I'll tell you what, they're a far cry from the 52-week highs. I'm not saying that to be negative. I'm just pointing out there could be plenty of room still. Now, this is a stock that's trading, call it $6 today, but the 52-week high is close to $11. So they've got a long way to go to get back up to there. But because of what they've been able to do and this hydrogen and the zero emissions and everything else, that's something that I think people are definitely going to be very excited about. By the way, the ones who might not be too excited about will be the shorts, in which they've got about 15% shorts in here, John. So when you look at the rest of the cash burn and the balance sheet, they've got plenty of room. They've got plenty of room to take off, so to speak. And this is a stock that I think could make a move like that because everybody's looking for the next great thing, right? And this is air taxis, everything else that's been talked of, the vertical up and the vertical down, all the rest. This could be pretty interesting, I think. I think you want to follow Joby. They still don't make money, but it's certainly something that I think you want to keep on your, at least on your radar.
Yeah, they'll be able to be one of the first companies to really deliver on the promise of that vertical lift. They look an awful lot like a giant drone, quite frankly, Pete, but very impressive stuff. All right, now let's talk about QuantumScape. This one, it's only up 31%, Pete. 31%! Why is it up 31%? Well, Volkswagen, they basically have entered into a groundbreaking agreement with QuantumScape for their next generation solid state lithium metal, not lithium, just lithium ion, lithium metal battery tech. So that's really good for Volkswagen and the people that they're going to be doing this with. I think, Pete, it turns out that somebody may have had an inkling about this because we had unusual option activity in here. So when you take, imagine that. Somebody was in here buying calls and the stock has moved 31%. So you want another 10x trade? That, my friends, is a 10x trade because the stock just ran to the upside. People are loving this one. And quite frankly, I think Volkswagen is the one to watch among the major car manufacturers, Pete, for basically doing EVs in whatever shape and sour. Everybody else struggles. These guys can actually make them and compete with Tesla. Most of the others just make a few hundred. These guys have capability of doing thousands.
Yep. Not only thousands, John. As a matter of fact, they talked directly about the mass production and how VW meshes really, really well with QuantumScape. And they actually talked about 1 million vehicles per year. Yep. So there is a lot to be said for this. You look at the cash position that they've got, cash to debt. They got about $1 billion on the positive side. So that's a good thing. Also, again, just like we talked about, when you get big movement, what usually is one of the factors that plays into it? The shorts. And there's about a 15% short in this, John. That's not massive, but it's pretty big. And you can see that you could have a pretty decent kind of a squeeze going on, like we talk about all the time, these short squeezes. That doesn't help the shorts at all. They're definitely getting nervous today because this is pretty good news, is with a real company with Volkswagen and somebody who could compete in terms of the numbers that they could put out with Tesla. So with all that being said, I think there's a good reason to keep an eye on QuantumScape as well. I think you're going to want to keep that one on your radar.
QS, folks, QuantumScape. All right, Delta Airlines, Pete, the most profitable airline in the United States. However, despite the fact that they are profitable, they did $16.7 billion in revenue. That exceeded by about 500 million what the street was looking for. However, they did slightly miss on a bottom line number, Pete, and that's because, according to the CEO, excess supply. So yes, they are making money. Yes, they try to sell more premium seats than the other airlines. And supposedly that's why the stock has run like it has. But today it's not running to the upside, Pete.
Right. Coming into today, it was up about 16%, year to date, John. So that's been a pretty nice ride to the upside. But that doesn't mean everything is perfect. And as you said, they missed, but they missed by that much. I think what people are focusing on, where they're getting maybe a little bit nervous, however, was the outlook. And when you look at the outlook, it's below what folks were expecting for Q3. So that could be something that maybe it puts something in front of Delta to try to step over the top of that. But as of right now, that outlook, and we talk about it all the time, what does that look like? We all know the earnings themselves and the revenue and all the rest of it. But what is the outlook? What does this thing look like going forward? In Q3, they didn't give us anything really, really good, John, to chew on. And I think that might be a little bit of a problem over the next quarter.
Yeah, it could be a problem for them, Pete. But man, the fact that they have done as well as they've done, and that they're, as quoting their CEO, fairly insulated from industry overcapacity, they've picked their routes pretty well. And the fact that they can get those premium seats sold at levels where the other guys, end up doing a lot of things for people like you and me when we fly. If you fly frequently, yeah, you get the upgrade. Well, you get the upgrades with Delta too, but more and more people buy those first class and business class seats than they do on the other airlines. So more profitable. All right, Pete, little sports. Let's close it up with a couple sports headlines.
Well, it's interesting because we got two basketball ones, and I'm going to talk about the Olympic basketball team, John, the Dream Team 2024, right? I mean, last night they played a game against Canada, which has a lot of guys who play in the NBA. They play up in Canada too, and they play in Italy, and they play all over the place, right? But they're playing against Canada. And 20,000 people were there in Las Vegas to watch this game. I think that might have set a record, especially given what it is. I mean, this is just a game between two countries. This has nothing to do with the Olympics. This is just to get things started and going and everything else. Anyway, all that being said, there are some superstars out there, John. You've got Steph Curry, you got Joel Embiid, you've got Anthony Edwards, you've got LeBron, all these great players, right, playing for the U.S. So hence the Dream Team 2024. Here's who else they have playing, and I wanted to run this by you. If you're the Boston Celtics owner and you see out there on there as part of the team, three different players who all play for Boston, you've got Drew Holiday, you've got Jason Tatum, and you got Derek White. All players who played at Boston. Not all of them played exactly the same amount of games as each other, but let's just kind of round it and say they played, if you include the playoffs, and all the way through, John, 85 to 90 games of basketball. Now these guys are going to be playing however many more games they've got, and it's coming right after the end of the season. Would you be concerned if you were an owner? I just throw this out there because I think it's kind of fun to kick around, but you're paying Tatum $330 million, right? And he's over there playing after playing 90-plus games. Are you concerned about that at all? Does that worry you as far as fatigue and possible injury and all the things that maybe could happen? Maybe. I'm not saying they will, but it's a possibility.
Well, the only thing I think that he should be worried about, Pete, the owner, is injury, because fatigue for these guys, some of the most elite athletes on earth, and they're not going to be playing games, Pete, for the Celtics for several months. So I'm not concerned about that. But I am always, in the back of your mind, you're always a little worried about what if this guy comes down wrong on somebody's foot and ends up either breaking an ankle, stretching a ligament in his ankle and or his knees. Those are things you do have to worry about. Now, one thing that maybe the Olympic team should be a little worried about is, yes, they beat a good Canadian team. They're a medal contender. Puerto Rico, by the way, Pete, they're going to the Olympics with their team too. Not every country that fields a team can actually get there. It's like soccer. They have to play in. This wasn't a play-in game last night. Both these teams are expected to do very well at the Olympics. But I'll say, Pete, 7 for 23 on threes. They're going to have to move that percentage up.
Yeah.
Because 7 for 23 doesn't get it done, especially if you're up against somebody who's having a hot night. That would be enough basically for you to lose that game because that's not where you need to be. You need to be a lot closer to 50-50 on those threes.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think people don't realize, one thing that the Timberwolves showed us this past year is they play great defense. Anthony Edwards being one of them, and he's an absolute freak out there. He doesn't want people to score. He'll do whatever he can. And defensively, they were one of the best, if not the best team throughout the entire season last year from a defensive perspective. So that's where all the work really comes in. All right, next one, John. Breaking the bank in the NBA. And why do I use that expression, breaking the bank? Well, they just got a new TV deal. Their previous decade deal was 9 years, $24 billion. That's not such a bad contract, right? I mean, it's pretty damn good. Well, now they're in the midst of a new media deal. 11 years, $76 billion. They're bringing NBC back into the NBA and all the rest of it. It's going to be pretty interesting. That's a really massive number. So for all the flack that I do give the commish of the NBA, he's doing one thing right. This media whole thing, he's doing a great job for the players, for the teams, for the owners. and you're going to see numbers that are going to be eye-popping into the future, Jon, as far as like how much guys are going to get paid per year with that new money that's going to be coming in there. And it gives them stability, right? I mean, they've got all these different outlets where they have themselves in the media. So that could be great. They also have one other thing that's going to be pretty interesting. Now the speculation is, are they going to add more teams with all this money and all this stuff that's going on within the NBA? Here's the cities that everybody's looking at. Las Vegas, because everybody else in sports has gone there. For the people who don't realize it, the Oakland A's are going to be there pretty soon. They'll be the Las Vegas A's. But you've got Montreal, you've got Vancouver, you've got Kansas City and Seattle, which used to have a team. But what do you think? I mean, the expansion, if you were to pick two of those 4 or 5 different cities, Jon, where would you go? I think I'd go Vegas for sure. I think you just have to. And I kind of like Kansas City. Why not? I mean, they're very supportive. They have the greatest fans maybe in the NFL. Why not give them a shot?
Yeah. And I like Seattle as well, Pete.
Yeah.
So I love both of those for you. I like the idea that Vegas is where all those players want to play in Vegas too.
Yeah.
And it's not just for taxes. It's a great place to live.
Yeah.
I mean, fabulous restaurants, entertainment, nightlife for clubbing and all that. And these are young men. They want to be in a place like this. That makes it a little tougher for your pick in Kansas City because there's not quite as much of that in Kansas City. But maybe that'll keep the players more focused.
Well, I'll tell you, rabid fans, Jon. Rabid. I mean, honestly, you and I have talked about this many times when we talked about the NFL. What stadium is the most incredible? Who has the greatest sound? The most people that have been probably having a pretty good time before the game starts. I mean, obviously Buffalo, obviously Philadelphia. I mean, there's a lot of different places.
Dallas.
They
got a rock and roll band on one side of that stadium, folks on the outside. And Pete and I, we were down there, guests of Jerry Jones. And on the other side, they had country western. So whatever kind of, fun music that you want to listen to, it is a party at AT&T Stadium, let me tell you.
Yeah, but Kansas City is rocking, man. I mean, that stadium, Jon, it's like college. It's like 90,000 people that all want to be there, and they absolutely live for their Chiefs. I mean, and I say that as a guy, I didn't play for Kansas City. I got no reason to say all that other than the fact that I got to be honest, and I've been in a lot of NFL stadiums. I think that one's the loudest, the most active, some of the best fans. They're knowledgeable. All of that goes into what Kansas City has. So they could do that with the NBA, and they wouldn't be all that far away from Oklahoma City and some of the rest of it.
True. Well, folks, remember, Pete, that guy, he will be on with Grant Cardone at 7 p.m. tonight. You can register for that. Just follow that link that's up on your screen, and you can be part of that. Like I say, over 16,000 people have already registered for it. It's going to be a fabulous event. Instant cash flow from real estate without owning any real estate. You want to know how they do it? Pete and Grant will show you how tonight, 7 p.m. Make sure you check that out. And Pete and I will be back Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Bang. Have a good one, everybody.